forgot to mention earlier about the broccoli florets or any cruciferous vegetables. I made a mistake one time trying to recall what family of vegetables the dark floret style vegetables would be categorized under. When speaking to my mother in the past, I recall that saying coniferous, or it's actually when it's actually cruciferous. Coniferous is the a forest landscape in the northern hemisphere of our planet, I believe, or it's not the rainforest. So, but when speaking of vegetable florets, the dark green ones like Brussels sprouts or broccoli. I can't recall any others. I'm not really sure, but I'm not really supposed to eat too much of because of my thyroid condition. I have hypothyroidism, and they say that eating specifically those two style vegetables can counteract the naturally produced thyroid hormone in our bodies, especially for people that are hypothyroid. They're supposed to limit the amount of the cruciferous greens, but I eat it almost regularly in a decent quantity, but I don't overdo it. I don't eat a whole head of broccoli, for example, or cauliflower, which some would be able to. But I do eat it regularly. I'm not sure if it's the best thing for me to do, but I've been doing that. And with garlic, I forgot to mention what I love about garlic is it's a natural antibiotic that nature produces. It's called anicillin or allicin or one of those two. I think it's anicillin though. Not penicillin, but anicillin, I think. And it's a natural antibiotic, and garlic is also a blood thinner. And they say if you are going to the doctors, you may want to speak to your doctor if you're ever going to have a surgical procedure. From articles I've read, they mention that you should let your doctor know whether or not you eat a lot of garlic or garlic in the foods that you eat, because it's a blood thinner and it can have an effect on the healing time. It can cause more bleeding, for example, and take more time to clot. And that's just something random I came across, and it's just a fact, supposedly. So you may want to look into that. So just if you're ever concerned or something to look up. So it's a blood thinner and also an antibiotic. But if it's a blood thinner, it's not a bad thing because it's healthy for the heart then, and it's for the arteries, and it's also, well, blood circulation too. And what I like to do recently is save old preserve jars. I get organic preserves from my the brand that is generic organic, marketed towards my grocery store that I shop at. It's the Organics brand. And what I do is once I'm done with the preserve jar, I let it soak in water, remove the label. You could also put maybe a tablespoon of vinegar in a bowl of water and just let it sit there overnight. And then I'd say use something like a disposable plastic container, not disposable, but one that you wouldn't reuse too often, or maybe one dedicated for just removing labels, I'd suggest, because the glue, and you don't want to probably, even though that the adhesive would probably be non-toxic or whatever, just in case, I don't know. I mean, you could let it even sit in the sink. I don't even use a bowl or anything. I just put it in the sink and let it put some soapy water in there with some detergent, and then wash it, of course. And I know I'm saying a lot of ands. I don't really talk about this that often, so anyways, basically I just remove the label, clean it until it's like very clean, and store it in a cabinet. If moisture collects before using, give it another wash and dry it with a clean towel or a napkin. And I would reuse these to preserve anything I would refrigerate, like for example the tamponade, if there's any extra, and then or add maybe some, like a tablespoon of this Bragg's vinaigrette, or just regular apple cider vinegar would do fine, just a tablespoon added. A tablespoon or two, depending on how much you're going to save to keep it preserved. If there's like mushrooms in your, let's say you're eating uncooked mushrooms when you make your fresh tamponade or sauce, if you're making a raw vegan tomato sauce with mushrooms or something, of course you would wash the mushrooms first before making it. But if you're going to save them, I'd suggest for taking whatever you haven't already eaten, and if you want to preserve it, to put it in a saucepan and let it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes while stirring. Because with mushrooms, and when you just prepare them raw in a tomato sauce or whatever you're making, you want to make sure that it's been cooked if you want to preserve it. That's just something that you would want to consider because of bacterial growth or something like that. And then also add vinegar. I like the gluten-free vinegars. Apple cider vinegar is my favorite. You could maybe use rice vinegar. But apple cider vinegar is very versatile. They use it even in baked gluten-free goods. Um, Baked vegan gluten-free goods like breads and things like that. They use apple cider vinegar. Even in cupcakes. And if you're going to use sorghum flour in a cupcake or a vegan cookie, they sometimes request apple cider vinegar because it works with the sorghum flour if you're using sorghum flour, as because it works as a leavening agent when you mix the two together, sorghum and apple cider vinegar. It replaces, let's say, the yeast. If you, it would replace like activated dry yeast if you're not going to use that in a bread. And let's say you're going to make a cupcake or cookie, you would use apple cider vinegar with sorghum flour to make it. Now, some people are who would be gluten intolerant. Let's say they have celiac or intestinal discomfort after eating gluten, grains or flours used in baked goods that have that are closely related to the wheat or barley or rye glutens. Some people can still eat the sorghum-based gluten, and there are some that have a food sensitivity to that. But with grain allergies, for example, it would normally be just barley gluten, that barley malt vinegars that would affect people that have brain allergies to that type of vinegar. So, but apple cider vinegar, very versatile, used in cooking and baking. So you save money. Rice vinegar is good for like sauteing Asian food with sesame oil or something like that. Or salad dressings. Rice vinegar is used for salad dressings too, a lot of the time. Gluten free. The red wine vinaigrettes are good with fruit salads, like with apples or cranberries or with lemon zest. You could use even apple cider vinegar for that, but you could also use the red wine vinegar when you make quinoa, for example. That goes well with some red onion or something like that. And you make a nice quinoa fruit slash maybe red onion included, or or some bell peppers included. Red wine vinegar is a gluten-free vinegar that's good for that, for salads. But apple cider vinegar, almost anything. So I like that. But this is mostly like Italian style. This has garlic powder and, let's see, down here it has organic onion, organic black pepper, and it also has organic garlic. So that's more like Italian style. The sweetener would be organic honey. And now honey is kind of acceptable to include for vegans now that there's a an issue with the bee population in Monsanto. There's this theory connected between the two. With the pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides possibly killing off the bee population, and people think that buying honey will counteract that in an ethical way. So organic honey is okay. I don't personally, I don't get the processed honey that you normally find in the little plastic teddy bears or whatever. Not because of not necessarily because of it not being organic or anything, but because the way it's processed, it has been boiled down into a fructose syrup and probably watered down, when the organic ones still have enzymes potentially in them. Xanthan gum is another versatile ingredient. It's usually a binding ingredient found in which it's kind of like it's considered technically a type of bacterium, kind of like yeast, but it also is used in vegan cheeses, and what else could be used in? It's used in a lot of baking, but you wouldn't want to use an Italian flavored vinaigrette in a cookie or anything like that. You'd of course have to buy that separately, the xanthan gum. But this comes in handy if you're making, like, let's say a mushroom nut loaf, like a veggie loaf, like a vegan meatloaf. Let's say that comes in handy when using rice and lentils, and let's say rice, lentils that are pre-cooked with that xanthan gum. It helps it kind of like as a natural adhesive or binding for that. So enough of that. Oh, and always refrigerate after opening when you're with vinegars or whatever. So this is a good brand. I use it in a lot of my homemade recipes because you can use it, like, it has all it has a lot of the same shared ingredients.